Mother lovers, how are you guys doing? This is Kasparec broadcasting from Studio 420 in Vancouver. It's a Thanksgiving Monday in Canada. It's a very quiet day and I'm here with my latest creation, the Buddha. In all his glory, shining the love and light from within, which by the way, always comes from within. There's another Buddha on my t-shirt, but this one is a rebel. He's sitting covered by tattoos, wearing the Guy Fawkes mask, and he's sitting in the middle of Matrix, but he cannot be touched by the lies. But that's another story for another day. I actually have a very open and vulnerable story from my own life to share with you today, and I hope it's going to inspire you to learn how to use any kind of energy, and especially the negative one, for your benefit, how to transform it into something positive. But before I do that, I encourage you as always to click on the link below. That's my website, and get on my free newsletter. I send 2 emails per month, and it's filled with articles that can inspire you on your journey as a warrior of light, who we truly are anyways. And of course, there's some juicy offers for my subscribers as always. Now I'm gonna put this on an easel, the camera I mean, because it's pretty heavy and there's too many veins popping on my neck and I don't want to scare you guys. Let's dive in. If you allow me just 1 second before we dive into the story, I wanted to show you the details of this painting that I'm actually quite in love with. So you can see I used 24 karat gold around his head. That's genuine gold flakes, and have you noticed the wolf on his shoulder? Well, of course it's got a meaning too. Same as the whale, the jumping whale. And I try to create the illusion of 3D on a 2D surface by both the rays of the sun and the waves coming out of the canvas. And I also used genuine gold on his hands. Okay, story time. Let's do this. I will share 2 stories with you today. The first one is from my early days when I was a teenager. I was a very creative kid until I would say age 13 or 14, that something violent happened in my life. Somebody humiliated me in a way that completely shut down my heart, and I dedicated the next 10 years of my life to become a tough guy, to build myself a reputation as a fighter. I was a very enthusiastic boxer, and I created lots of trouble. I got into fights pretty much every day, and eventually I took my revenge on the people who humiliated me, and I created so many problems for myself that I had to run away from my own country, and I got into French Foreign Legion, which is a special army unit in France, and I spent another 5 years in the French Foreign Legion. But that energy of anger that I had in my heart, it never really left me. And I created all sorts of scenarios to enhance that reality around me. I will share one story with you when one of my superiors smashed my eardrum with no particular reason. And after digging a hole for a whole night, instead of letting me see a doctor while my ear was bleeding, I eventually ended up being operated in the field hospital in Sarajevo, because we were on the mission in Bosnia and Herzegovina. That was in the late 90s. And I hated that guy. It was really difficult time for me because I couldn't take any sorts of revenge. He was my superior. All I had was this deep-seated anger inside of me. So I carried it around for many, many years, and I dreamed about all the possible movies, like how I'm gonna destroy this guy when I get a chance, when I get out of the army, how I'm gonna meet him in the normal life, and just, nothing really good. And it took me many years actually. My first spiritual breakthrough happened when I was 29 years old, even 30 years old. It was my first significant breakthrough when I did Vipassana meditation in India, which is a 10-day silent meditation. And in that moment I realized that there is something deeper behind the facade of the personality and all the emotions and all the programmed mind, all the mind noise. There is something very peaceful and joyful and much more true than the illusion that we created about ourselves, that we believe that we are. There is actually something which is infinitely more loving and beautiful, and which doesn't need any labels. But still, I came back to the old ways, and I still carried lots of resentment, not only for what happened in the army, but I was mad against the world. I realized more and more things, how this planet is getting destroyed by governments, by central banks, by lots of entities which have zero interest in the free humanity or in anything beneficial. They just want to perpetuate the misery so they can stay in power. And that kept underground. I thought that I resolved my anger issues, but it always came up to the surface in situations like driving in a traffic jam or something like that, or somebody triggered me in a particular way that was sensitive for me, which wasn't always related to me, but more like my ideas of justice in the world. I got triggered by that, and the anger would come to the surface. And it's not until recently that I actually learned how to harness the energy, any sorts of energy, and particularly the negative energy, how to harness it and use it for your own benefit. Obviously, I learned that in meditation, because meditation is when you finally slow down, and if you sit long enough, and every day, if you make it your practice, all the programs, all the unconscious mind, which normally we cannot access, but still it creates 95% of who we are. Only 5% is conscious mind. So we think that we are masters of our lives, but it's completely not true, because until we learn how to go beyond the mind and reprogram our unconscious mind, then we really just slaves of our mind, which is reflected in the body. We crave the hormones of stress because we're addicted to them. It's everything that we know. So my meditation practice finally enabled me to see my unconscious patterns of anger. And anger, of course, wasn't the only thing. Like there was just so much stuff that came to the surface. And what I realized is that if I stop pushing it away, if I stop doing the same thing as I always did my whole life, and as the society teaches us, which is run away from your pain, numb it, go have sex, have coffee, have alcohol, whatever it is, go chat with friends, go do some online dating, or just feel yourself validated by the likes on Facebook. If you don't do that, and you actually sit with the emotion, you can transform it by your awareness. Because in the moment of silence is really the only place where you actually realize that it's something which has got nothing to do with your true essence. It is just an emotion that you kept stuck in your unconscious mind. And you can use it because it's a powerful energy. You can use it to create something good. So, for example, I told you today is a Thanksgiving Monday, and it's a very quiet day. And I don't like long weekends because like and don't like. I don't like it because it triggers my pains of fear of abandonment, of being alone. I'm a loner. I love being alone. But I realized through meditation that I have this deep-seated fear from childhood that I must have been abandoned for a while by my mom, or something happened, and I have the fear of abandonment. And when it's everything quiet around and nobody to distract me, and everybody's with their own families, and the people who I love are over the ocean, and I can't see them, and I feel very alone in those times, it triggers those pains. But now what I do, instead of having a glass of wine or going to a pub or trying to hook up with some girl, what I do, I take it, I'm aware of the energy, and I use it as a fuel for creativity. And I do the same with anger. So this weekend, this 3-day long weekend, I created lots of painting. I did a lot of work. And I wasn't trying to run away from the emotion of abandonment, or my fear of abandonment, or whatever it is. I was fully present with it. But I was taking that fire that was burning me within and I was using it as my own rocket fuel. And you can do the same with you can do the same with no matter what negative emotion. If it's anger, if it's fear of isolation, if it's fear of death, which of course is the primary fear that everybody has. And people who think that they're not scared of death, they're either this guy or they're fooling themselves. Like every human being, it comes with the incarnation package that you have fear of death in your DNA, because you have not yet realized your infinite nature, your immortal nature, which doesn't come as a mental concept. It doesn't come as a mind understanding or something that you agree intellectually. It can only be lived as a pure experience of truth. That's why Buddha was always teaching meditation. He wasn't preaching. He wasn't trying to put things or more ideas into people's minds. He was trying to teach people how to go beyond the mind. And that's why he said, I'm not the moon, I'm the finger pointing at the moon. So, and now I lost my thread. So yes, so fear of death is the primary fear that reflects into zillions of different shades of other fears, but it is the primary fear which is always there. So whatever it is, if you learn how to sit with it, be present with it, don't push it away, be actually present with it and trust it. Because as Richard Rudd, the founder of Gene Keys, beautiful teaching that I recommend you highly, he always says, fear is safe. And I couldn't agree more with him, because fear is temporary. You are immortal, infinite. Like, how can fear ever touch something which is immortal and infinite? Well, we have temporarily chosen the journey of fear in order to remember who we truly are. But when you realize that fear is safe, that's when you can start enjoying it. That's when you welcome it, and when you embrace the emotion, when you trust life enough to let it in 100%, that's when you actually start using the energy of everything that comes your way. And because we are 99.9999999% energy and very, very tiny little speckle of matter, it's all about energy. That's why I keep on banging on this word. Energy is all we are, and when you use your energy in a conscious way, you can create a whole new life. But again, you have to learn how to go beyond the barrier that is created by your mind between the conscious 5% and unconscious 95%. You have to learn how to transcend that barrier, which is made by mind. And then we can make a whole new life for ourselves. And by the way, the person who teaches this in the most enlightened and most practical and just mind-blowingly amazing way is Dr. Joe Dispenza. I just bought his course. I've been on his teachings for a while. I finally committed to his online course, and I'm telling you guys, it's $300 well spent. Go for it. So this was my story from my life, how I actually learned over the years. And it took me 2 decades to get to the point when I realized that I have anger inside of me, which is coming from childhood, which is really coming from a story which is so old. It's not even me anymore, but it's still there, and it's always gonna be there until I learn how to sit with it, be present with it, don't run away with it, and then I can transform it and harness it, and it can be very beneficial. It can be fuel for a tremendous amount of work and light, because the other flip coin of fear is light, is love, is our true nature. Alright guys, I hope you like it. And just on the side note, I am not a master. I'm just a human. I'm just an everyday regular guy, and I fail in this over and over and over again. But the difference is that I always come back to it. I always stand up and say, hey, I failed, I forgive myself, and I'm gonna go and try again. And the next time that somebody triggers me in traffic, or drives like an asshole, instead of externalizing that anger by honking or shouting something, I will take that energy and I'll go plant a tree. So I hope you guys can do the same. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. Really appreciate it. Eat some blueberries, be peaceful, and see you next time. Much love.